The Grith Show is back. Grith Show 3.0. Grith Show Graveyard Shift. But this show's going to be a little bit different. In fact, you won't be seeing this for very long because this show is audio focused. We have a great show for you today and some great shows lined up in the future. This monthly show will be going out on a multitude of platforms and you can pick it up wherever you like. Salutations and happy haunts to everyone. I'm your host Possum with the Grith Show, and it's time for another Graveyard Shift. Last month's episode was decidedly a success, so I can't wait to show you what's in store this month. Today we'll be spending a good chunk of our time looking back. At time of recording, it's the first month of 2024, and it's worth looking back at the year past and seeing what went well. But don't worry, it's not just segments that are going to age this episode horribly. We're also talking about video game vehicles, Boku no Natsuyasumi 2, and of course, listening to the second episode of our original radio play, as well as much, much more. We've of course got some new tunes for you, and this time not just public domain stuff. That's right, we have music made within the last 50 years. This is a bit of an experiment, and if I end up with a copyright strike, then that is a waste of subscription money to the royalty-free music platform I'm using, so we'll see what happens. Let's get this experiment started with No Good Kudzu by Kylie Dailey.
It dries up and now there's just one road to take. It's growing up over with green. So easy to drive on, but not what it seems. The poison is spilling upstream, and it's taking out every living trying, and even if you could, it wouldn't come out like it should. This stubborn kudzu just covers these words. Could you listen to somebody else? Will you only drink from the thoughts of yourself? Are you under the canopy spell? You dig in your heels and spread the disease. You're spreading the disease. Back up the drive a bit. Could you see what this is? This is a part of it all. To injury, this is a part of it all. Could you hike back to it, fight with it, sit with it? This is a part of it all. Ask around, be aware, make peace with what is there. This is a part of it all. Who told you that it was too late?
Just like last month, we're going to start with a sub-show on gaming and then move into a sub-show on film and TV, so let's not waste any time. Moving right along, The gaming theme for this week is Looking Back. Now, our first segment for the day is the best games of 2023. Alright. This is going to be a pretty simple segment where I'm just going to take you through my top 30 games of the year. If any of your favorite games from the year, like Star Wars Jedi Survivor at 32, Starfield at 33, Another Fisherman's Tale at 35, Sea of Stars at 38. If any of those aren't on what I'm about to say, go to Backlogged, because my full list of over 100 games that I played last year is there. That's right, over 100 goddamn games. That's what I get for being a games journalist, huh? Anyway, starting at number 30 is Sons of the Forest, still in early access, but it is a really, really fun survival game. It is a survival plus horror, not survival horror, survival plus horror. And I'm not one for survival games typically, but The Forest and Sons of the Forest, they do something special for me. I don't know what to tell you. 29, My Friendly Neighborhood. Dread XP were really coming out swinging this year. They had a lot of great stuff on their plate, and this was one of the best. I think this went under a lot of people's radar. It's a action survival horror game about puppets, but I think the problem is that in adverts and things it looks a lot like Five Nights at Freddy's, particularly Security Breach, but it is not. It is a very, very different game. Number 28, Viewfinder. You probably know Viewfinder, puzzle game where you use photographs to travel around and create spaces around you. Really, really fun game. Jusant. Imagine if the climbing mechanics from Uncharted had a little bit more to them, and there was a whole game based around them, where there was just more and more kept being added. Really fun game, even if it outstays its welcome a little bit. Lies of P, the Pinocchio Souls-like. That's what it is. It's a Souls-like where you play as Pinocchio Bloodborne. Not much else to say. Great art design, really good Souls-like mechanics, very Moorish. 25, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Well, you'll hear more about this later in the episode, so be sure to keep listening. Oxenfree 2, Lost Signals. Aesthetically, I think this outdoes the first game. However, it doesn't have the same gripping story and progression that the first game did. 23, Cassette Beasts. Honestly, if I were to redo this list, Cassette Beasts might be higher. I think this was a super underrated game, and you know what? If you are sat there right now, the week this releases, and you're thinking, I don't want to play Pal World, but it has given me a craving to play a Pokemon-like, Cassette Beast is what you're looking for. This was so underrated last year. Please go and play Cassette Beasts. It is so much fun. I think it's also the only full-length game I've played that is made entirely in Godot, the Godot engine, which is a fun fact. Number 22, Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. A really great modernization of the Armored Core formula. With a lot of what FromSoft has learned from doing their more recent Soulsborne games. Definitely worth playing, but it's not going to be for everyone. Number 21, Street Fighter 6. Need I say anything? The biggest fighting game of the year. Street Fighter 6 is great for fans of fighters and for just regular people. The story mode is surprisingly solid for just the average player. Number 20, another underrated one, The Many Pieces of Mr. Coup. This is a fully hand-animated FMV point-and-click game that I really enjoyed, even if, you know, like any point-and-click FMV game, it is a little fiddly. 19, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. Finally, Cyberpunk is at the state that it should have been in bare minimum. It is number 19, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. Finally, Cyberpunk is in the state it should have been at bare minimum on launch day. Phantom Liberty is a great spy thriller chunk of the Cyberpunk universe, and it's well worth playing. The Outlast Trials. These will be releasing on console pretty soon. I think this is one of the best multiplayer horror games ever made. That's not a super high bar. love all of the Outlast games, and this is included in that. This is a super, super solid title that definitely you should get if you like horror and if you like multiplayer, and if, like me, you are bored of the monotonous gameplay of Dead by Daylight. Definitely pick up the Outlast Trials. Dredge. There's nothing I love more than horror games and games where you have a vehicle that takes you around as you try and deal with a desolate environment, and that is exactly what Dredge is. Sailing around in your ship is so much fun, and dealing with the horrors is equally weirdly fun. Amnesia: The Bunker is not a game that I expected to have at number 16, but here it is. You play as a soldier in World War I who has been abandoned in a bunker with a strange beast of some description. There's twists galore. It is different to all of the other Amnesia games, and I thought the Amnesia games kind of fell off. Machine for Pigs was fine, and then Rebirth was not great. But The Bunker brings it back. It is a horror Metroidvania, and I cannot recommend it enough. Not enough people have played this game. Number 15, Gunbrella. Speaking of Metroidvanias, this is a fantastic 2D side-scrolling shooter Metroidvania. An interesting enough story, great traversal and shooting mechanics, and generally a good time if you can deal with the difficulty spikes. Pizza Tower. We all know Pizza Tower. Pizza Tower is one of the biggest games of the year, but it's sat at number 14 on my list because it's just so much fun. It is a fun, quick, speedy side-scrolling platformer. Leica, super underrated. No one talked about this game, but this is at the number 13 spot for me because, man, is it so much fun. It is everything I wanted my friend Pedro and Rollerdrome to be. It's so much fun. The bosses are varied and all really good. The Metroidvania elements are really well implemented. The animated cutscenes are stunning. I don't know why this isn't everywhere. Number 12, Ghost Runner 2. I was a huge fan of Ghost Runner 1 and Ghost Runner 2. Equally grabbed me. Highly recommend. Number 11, Resident Evil 4. Need I say anything? A fantastic remake of a fantastic genre-changing game. Number 10, Spider-Man 2. Honestly, when I first beat this game, I was like, ugh, because the story's not as strong. I was like, maybe this isn't that good. But as time has gone on, I haven't been able to delete it from my system because it's just so much fun to jump into that world. The collectibles and the map isn't so annoyingly busy and clunky now. It's just a fun time to go around and explore New York. All of the traversal mechanics have been refined, and there's new traversal mechanics that just make it a great time to go around. Plus, you can turn off the assistance with web swinging so that it adds an extra layer of challenge to making it around New York, and you can faceplant into buildings, which is equally fun. Remnant 2, wow, this game came out of nowhere, right? Like, it was one of those games that was, oh yeah, that, you know, the sequel to a reasonably well-known title, but man, Remnant 2 really knocked it out of the park. All of the classes are really fun to play as and really fun to unlock. The random generation is crazy. I've played this game through 2.5 times now, and it feels like playing a different game each time, which is insane. Highly recommend Remnant 2. Dead Space. My favorite game of all time is Dead Space 2, so playing a 2023 remake of the original Dead Space was a dream come true for me. I loved this remake. I loved all of the changes that were made. It is a perfect modernization. It kept just enough and changed just enough in all the right ways. Number 7, El Paso Elsewhere. How could I not choose this? One of my favorite games, again, similar to Dead Space, one of my favorite games is Max Payne, and this is just Max Payne with monsters and vampires and demons and creatures. It's a great time. It is well worth getting, and you can get it as a bundle with the number 5 spot on this list, which I will get to shortly after I tell you that number 6 is That Which Gave Chase, a cinematic sort of experimental short game experience. The thing that really wows me about this is what I will refer to as the editing. It instantaneously switches between scenes, as though it's editing in a film, but it never feels jarring. It never feels like it's pulling you out of something, or it never feels annoying. This is an amazing game, and I can't believe that. Sometimes it feels like I'm the only person who's played this, because no one I talk to has played this. Please, if you played this, talk to me about how great it is. It's amazing. I just want more. I want more games in this style, and I hope the creator, if you ever hear this, which isn't likely, please do something else in this style. This is amazing. Number 5. This is the big 5 now. Here we go. Slay the Princess. This game has kind of blown up, deservedly so. Love Slay the Princess. It is a visual novel. I'm not a fan of visual novels. In fact, I'd go as far as saying that I hate visual novels. Not as a concept, I just hate playing them because I don't have the attention span. But Slay the Princess, it is gripping, the art is fantastic, the writing is outstanding, the level of choice that you have is unparalleled within the medium of visual novels. This is a must play, as is our number 4 spot, World of Horror. Got its 1.0 release in 2021, and again, this is a must play. It's another randomly generated game, but it's a great time nonetheless. Definitely worth play. Definitely worth playing with friends as well. It's not multiplayer, but you can gather around the same computer and make decisions together. It's a good time. And then number 3, 2, and 1 are kind of a bit obvious, so might disappoint you. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, amazing. Obviously, an incredible follow-up to Breath of the Wild, which was also an incredible game. The best final boss in maybe any Zelda game. And just a great time all around. Perhaps an improvement on Breath of the Wild, even though I haven't put as many hours in. Although I keep booting it up, so that tells you it. Speaking of games I put a lot of hours into, here's number 2, Baldur's Gate 3. I don't need to tell you about this game. I really don't. Even if you're watching this in 10 years' time, you know Baldur's Gate 3. This game is going to have staying power. This is the game of right now. Even into 2024. My number 1 spot, of course, if you know anything about me, which you should, because you're on episode 2 of the show, Alan Wake 2. I was hyped as hell for this game, and it paid off. This goes so hard. Best game of the year, without a doubt, no competition. And that was a very quick rundown of my favorite games of the year, and I'm gonna have to stop now because I've actually run over my time for this segment. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much, and I'll take it back to Possum to fill you in on the next segment. Thank you, me, for introducing me. Well, anyway, I haven't actually listened to that back yet, but good God, I hope I wrote that in a way that hasn't horrifyingly aged this episode the moment June of 2024 hits, or maybe even earlier. Let's all come together in 2024 for now, though. Man, woman, other genders, and cars. Our next segment is about the phenomenon of video game vehicles and why it's so easy to get attached to them. But first, let's take a break with a new tune. Here's At the Crash Site by ELFL.
I love video game vehicles. I can never really get to things like Euro Truck Simulator, but I'm a huge fan of when developers make hard to reach or impossible vehicles feel tangible and real.
I've got over 1,000 hours in Elite Dangerous, despite only having intentionally engaged in combat maybe twice. I just genuinely adore flipping all of the buttons and flying my ship. Don't forget the landing gear. Other good examples of this are Outer Wilds, which is one of the best games ever made. 2023's Everspace 2, No Man's Sky, and the Far games. There's something about maintaining a vehicle that protects you in return, acts as your home, and is your companion as you explore the wide world. So you can imagine how excited I am for Pacific Drive. Driving through the forest past abandoned houses and stations, keeping an eye out for the ambient threats of strange, paradoxical creatures and entities that inhabit this place, scavenging parts to keep your car repaired and together and to make it to the end of the day. It seems amazing, a perfect culmination of this car companion concept, but I was recently playing an early preview build of the game for the Future Games Show, and it got me thinking, what is it about car companions that makes them so great? I want to compare these things to another well-known inanimate video game pal, the companion cube. The whole point of this barely textured primary shape is that you'd create a bond with it, project feelings, and perhaps personify what is literally nothing. Like you might do to a desk toy or like a goldfish or something. In fact, another good example of this that doesn't get destroyed in a fire by a mechanical menace is Dogmeat in Fallout 4. He's purposefully given very minimal behavior and animations because when it comes to companions like this, less is more. This effect, when it comes to vehicles, is completely accidental, at least most of the time. Perhaps not in Far or Outer Wilds, but in vehicle sims like Elite Dangerous or Pacific Drive or even Euro Truck Simulator, I don't really feel like it's a person, but I do project and notice certain behaviors and quirks in these vehicles. And Pacific Drive hammers down on that. Quirks is literally a mechanic. Sometimes your car will gain effects like leaning to the left or occasionally stalling. But these are treated like negatives, which I think is a real shame, because there are ways that little quirks can add personality to these things. Sometimes only one of your headlights turns on, sometimes a wheel or joystick sticks in a certain spot. It may end up being less of a punishment in the final game than in the preview or the demo version I played at Gamescom. But it really feels like Pacific Drive, through this and other systems, has created a vehicle that almost really takes advantage of the connection the player will create. These mostly harmless quirks are what makes the player begin projecting. It feels like the vehicle is interacting, like it has behaviors, like it's communicating with you. I used to have an old keyboard, and on it I had mapped almost every function possible in Elite Dangerous to a key on that keyboard, because I'm an idiot who thought that would be a good idea. One day I spilled some sugary drink on the keyboard and it's gone sticky mode, but I managed to clear most of it off. However, one of the keys was just permanently borked. However, this happened to be the letter X, the key I had set to set the throttle to reverse thrust. What this means is that sometimes when I'm stationary, the reverse thrust would just start going and off I'd go. Multiple times I'd leave a space station and hang around outside to change my fire groups or my inventory, when suddenly, bam, what was that? Oh god, the ship's drifted backwards into the side of the station. Not again, girl. And there it is. As soon as it can be a machine with a mind of its own in even a small way, I'm already creating a bond with it. I'm already personifying it. This takes us all the way back to the companion cube. We've all been in situations where we'd put a cube down too far off the edge of a surface and it'd roll onto the ground, or God forbid, a pit or a chasm, throwing a cube into a portal loop, and then after a few times it smashes into the ground. Anytime you're not in control of your companion, you start building these bonds. You imagine the reactions that it would have if it was real, like a child connecting to a plush toy.
This is why I really hope Pacific Drive takes advantage of this weird thing in mine, and I think a lot of other people's brains, when it comes out later this year. In fact, in February. I could talk more about vehicle companions, but I'm sure there's plenty of show left, so I won't take up any more of your time.
Before we close our gaming segment, I want to talk about the one game that I feel was hyped up so much before release and then suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. No one is talking about Bomb Rush Cyberfunk anymore, but I will, okay? Here's some select portions of an interview I did with the game's director last year, with some parts that I didn't include in the original PC Gamer version of the video.
So, I'm Dion Koster. I am a game director and founder, co-founder of Team Reptile.
And for anyone who doesn't know the game, who may watch this video, could you sum up the game in 3 sentences?
Yeah. So I did this a couple of times for various stores and publications. Always typed it out, and but if I have to improvise here, I would say it's a game where you hang out on the street and you do graffiti, you dance, you face off against other crews, and you get in trouble with the police. And in the meantime, you find out about yourself, about what happened to you, specifically to your head that you lost.
You said that you're sort of drawing from your own past. Did you sort of, in your own life, spend a lot of time, breakdancing and graffitiing and doing all those sorts of things on the streets?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I wouldn't have this much passion for it if I just dipped my toe in it like that. So yes, I'm from a very young age dancing already, as far as I can remember even. And I started skating, inline skating, aggressive inline, when I was 7 or something, and kept doing that. But then when I was 13, I really got into breakdance. And that's when like a new world opened for me. 'Cause of course, skating you do on the street, you meet loads of people there, but it's not that like rigid, big like connecting culture that hip hop is. So from breakdance, I met loads of friends and got a view into this world of all these different elements and how they all originated from that same spot there in New York at the time. So I was into this, like before I even started making games. Although it wasn't too much later that I was sitting at my computer and typed up "make game" into Google to find a program called Game Maker, and just went to town with it. Yeah.
I actually have a video that I will put up on the screen here that I got off Twitter of you doing some of the motion capture for some of the dances in the game. You've got the moves, you know what you're talking about with these things. Another thing that stands out to me about the game visually is it's mixing that sort of Y2K graffiti street look with the cartoony look, much like things like Jet Set Radio. But what are some other sources of inspiration that have played into the look of New Amsterdam and the game as a whole?
Yes, so there's a lot to mention. Of course, from my own side, I've started with breakdancing, but went into graffiti and loads of other styles of dancing. But graffiti I actually went into a bit more, and I still write every now and then. And so the color use there is so wild and interesting, and it matches, even in graffiti you see cartoon characters featured next to the piece and everything. You have the colors anyway, you're making it pop on the more like bland reality around it, right? So graffiti itself is also doing this color use and this outline use and everything. So the visual style of graffiti surely inspired a lot of the visual style of this game, next to, of course, games that were doing that, which I discovered later after I had been dancing and doing graffiti for a while. Among those, Jet Set Radio Future. I hadn't played the original one or hadn't heard of the original one on the Dreamcast until much later. Didn't know there was one before it. Several Japanese artists, talking about, of course, Ryuta Ueda from Jet Set Radio, but also Ippei Gyobu, who is an artist who nowadays does a lot of mecha design, but back then he did a couple of games, among those Cool Toon, which also features a lot of dancing, actual what we call locking, and top rock, and stuff that's also being put into this game, with the added thing that we actually named them, which I thought was always kind of too bad, that you had a lot of Japanese games featuring dance. That was dope, but none of them actually mentioned what the dance is that they're doing. And so you couldn't, like, if you wanted to dance like that, you couldn't just look that up and say, oh, what are my classes nearby in my city? But with us, you can actually see the name there, and you can look those up, and you might find like a really dope style of dancing in the game, and then just go and search that up, maybe join a class, and maybe, you know, it would become a hobby or a passion. No.
Is that something you hope for from the game, that it's going to push people to sort of embrace this culture and community that you're really passionate about?
Absolutely, yeah. I think if I would like to have any impact, I would like people to go out and have fun. Actually, just once you finish the game, I want people to leave their keyboard. Just don't think about the game anymore. Think about the fun stuff you could be doing, instead of being inspired to make games. Rather be inspired to go out and have fun, make friends. Because I feel like lately there's been a bit less of that, and people get stuck in a cycle. And of course, many games and media facilitate that nowadays. Try to get you into this loop of keep playing, go to the next match, or just go to the sequel to the next game, because that's all that matters in the online world. But I'd rather break that cycle and say, no, this game should be the game that makes you stop playing games.
The final game, the last one.
The ultimate.
How much content is there in this game? How long would you say it is? How much is there to do?
So we've got boroughs. We got 5 boroughs that are the main stages. Then we've got more of a hub area that connects them all, and we've got a home base, the hideout. And in all of them, there is graffiti. There's more in the boroughs themselves. There's 5 crews aligned with the 5 boroughs. They control them all, and you take them all to become all city, which is a graffiti term for, you know, being the best in the city. And we've tested a lot. The game has changed while we tested, so it is a bit vague now how long exactly it takes to complete the main story. And of course, people can go back and do all the graffiti that was left that they didn't need to do per se. And there's loads of collectibles. All the music in the game can be collected separately, and you can get them on your phone that you can open at any time to play any song you like. So there's loads of things to get, things to complete, and characters to find. I think just doing the main thing now is 8 to 10 hours of gameplay, which is an estimate. But that's like a regular playthrough if you're not a game developer on it. Yeah.
If you're not trying to be a completionist.
Oh yeah, that also. Yeah. And a completionist, I wouldn't even know. We'll have to see. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to find out. I think I know a few people who have been waiting for this game for a little while, who I think are gonna try and get every single thing they possibly can. It sounds like you are someone who is very passionate about getting your voice into the product and getting your sort of, and probably the whole team's
vision.
Yeah, your vision. That's the word. Your vision out there into there, and it's I really genuinely can't wait to see that when I get my hands on the game in a couple of days. But sadly, our time comes to a close. And is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Thank you very much for your kind remarks. I would just like to say, if everyone can, just enjoy it or see what's up. Go in blind. Don't have too high expectations or too low. And have fun and go out and do that shit.
Absolutely. And when you finish the game, be sure to put the keyboard down and head out and have fun with your friends.
That's right.
Alright then, let's close our looking back themed gaming segment with another song. And to fit with such a theme, here's Vintage Dream by Mathilda June.
A little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned where I had sometimes played chess. And when I'm out, I'm looking for that vintage fling. But all complexions that I adore, so hard to find, these seem impossible to score. So I dream on to someday find that vintage love. I kept on looking, but everyone's such a bore. And out of a sudden, you came through the door. At the next table, your whiskey neat. The lights were dimmed as our eyes met, and you saw me. And forevermore, I like to share that vintage dream. I kept on looking, but everyone's such a bore. Out of a sudden, you came through the door. At the next table, your whiskey neat. The lights were dimmed as our eyes met, and you saw me. And forevermore, I like to share that vintage dream. And forevermore, we're living in that vintage dream.
Our film sub-show is themed to... Oh, it's also themed to looking back. I wonder if that was intentional. And you know what? The first segment is also the best of 2023. It's Deja Vu. Who would have knew? Alright, similar to the gaming segment, which I actually just recorded, this is going to just be my top 30, but you can read my almost 100 entries long. I almost got there. I always, ever since I got Letterboxd sort of 3 or 4 years ago, I have always gotten above 100 films in these lists, and this is the first year I didn't, so clearly I'm slacking. But here's my top 30 films. You can read my Letterboxd list for the full thing. Number 30 was How to Have Sex, which was good, and it did manage to surprise me. It was visually great, and I liked some of the takes it had with the friend sort of perpetuating everything that's happening. But I also think it kind of didn't feel like it wanted to progress the discussion very much. It felt like this was like, did you know this is happening? Yes, I did. Thank you. Now what? But I still gave this 4 stars. It's still a great movie. I think I just expected a little more. Number 29 is very thematically different to that. Godzilla -1, an amazing Godzilla movie by Godzilla movie standards. Obviously, this isn't the best movie of the year or anything, but it is really, really good. I really loved this movie. Sure, everyone's overacting for the whole thing, but you know, what can you do? Godzilla is incredible in this. It's a great mix of old-style Godzillas and the sort of freaky Shin Godzilla stuff, and there's some unique stuff about him that's also really cool. It's a really cool movie. Speaking of cool movies, number 28 is Shin Kamen Rider. I'd never watched any Kamen Rider stuff before this, but we watched this, and wow, what a fun movie. What a fun movie, seriously. I cannot call this movie bad because it's not bad. It is doing everything it's doing it wants to be doing, and it pulls it off perfectly. It is just a great time. Number 27 is No One Will Save You. Honestly, this would deserve a spot on this list for the screenplay alone. If you haven't had a look at some of the pages of the screenplay for this movie, please do. You'd be doing yourself a favor. It's fantastic, and every screenplay should be written by that. I'm not kidding. Really enjoyed this. Really novel take on the sort of alien invasion movie. But it's, it's not reinventing the wheel, so I couldn't put it too high on the list. 26, The Killer. Fincher, I've been a bit on and off with Fincher for a few years now, but he kind of brought it home with this, for the most part anyway. I really like the take on this. It feels very sort of self-aware to Fincher himself and his previous work, particularly Fight Club. I liked a lot of what was going on here. 25, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a film that the Oscar nominees have just been announced. This film was absolutely snubbed for the animation category. This is a really, really great film. I'm really glad that they weren't afraid to make some of the designs ugly. I feel like companies like Disney and, normally DreamWorks are really against making ugly characters. And when they do, they're like villains, they're evil, they're monsters. But this is the opposite. This is really, really cool. I love so much of what they did visually. The kids are annoying, but in a good way, a way that makes me believe that they're actually teenagers, right? This is the first version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles where I have actually believed that they're teenagers, and not just been like, that's just their name, but they're adult men. Number 24 is When Evil Lurks. This surprised me quite a lot. The previous movie by these directors, I liked a lot, especially what it was doing visually, but it didn't really grab me. I kind of forgot about it very quickly. This was a lot of fun, maybe the wrong word though, but a lot happens in this movie, and it happens very quickly. It's a great sort of it's not a zombie movie even. It's like not a zombie movie and not a possession movie, but it is also both, great time. Another snub for the Oscar for Best Animated Movie. Actually, this might have been nominated, I've forgotten. Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. I think the biggest thing with this is how much of a surprise it is that this film is good, considering how the original Puss in Boots movie is widely regarded as one of the worst DreamWorks movies ever made, right? But this is great. It visually astounds. The story's really genuinely fun and engaging, and the script, the dialogue, it's like a whip. It's so fast, so quick, so great. The Fabelmans is at 22. I think deep down I'm just a Spielberg boy. I kind of didn't want to like this going in, because it is, at the end of the day, aren't movies great, but it also, I like that it shows how the main character sort of gets too obsessed with movies, and he kind of doesn't grow out of that. It's self-aware enough that I can still have that level of respect for it. I like this movie a lot, hence it's on the list. Number 21, Across the Spider-Verse. Need I say more? Great movie. Number 20, Evil Dead Rise. I'm a huge fan of the Evil Dead series. Evil Dead 2 is one of my top 5 films of all time. I adore that movie. And Evil Dead Rise it's great. I don't know why so many people weren't into this film. I thought it was, I was going to say the best Evil Dead film in ages, but has there been a truly bad Evil Dead film? I'm not sure. This was really great though. It was different. It was still freaky. I didn't like the first half hour or so. The writing really sucked, but once they stop talking and start splattering blood everywhere, it's great. Number 19, John Slick, Chapter 4. Probably, narratively, probably maybe one of the weaker entries, but I'm really glad that it doesn't spend as much time as 2 and 3 do setting up all of this lore and backstory that I just don't care about. This is probably one of the best action movies ever made for its action. The Hotline Miami sequence, as I like to call it, if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about, is just one of the best action sequences ever made. It just is. And there are multiple sequences in this film that are just one of the best action sequences ever made. It's crazy how much is in this film. Full River Red. I watched this relatively early into the year, and I kind of expected it to slip down my list as the year went on, and it kind of didn't. It's a nice, not nice, but it's a fun, kind of wacky foreign language comedy movie, sort of action, comedy, horror, weird thriller thing. Yeah, worth watching. Fiona and Cake is a bit of a cheat because it's not a film, it's a show, but it was on Letterboxd, so I put it on the list. I was a huge fan of Adventure Time when I was a kid, and obviously this isn't like an adult, super mature thing, but it does feel like it's aimed largely towards people like me who grew up with Adventure Time and are now older and sort of able to grapple with some more complex emotional arcs. Everything that Simon is, I mean, I think the overwhelming sentiment with a lot of people when Adventure Time ended was, I want to see more Simon and Betty, and that's what this show is. It is more Simon and more Betty and more sort of of their emotional turmoil, everything going on with them, and goddamn, I forgot that Tom Kenny could act, but he does it here a lot, and he's good. He does a great job. Speaking of actors doing a great job, Killers of Flower Moon. Obviously this was going to be on the list. Are you kidding me? Are you joking? Killers of Flower Moon was fantastic. I actually wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. I'm a little bit, deep down, a little bit of a Scorsese naysayer, but he is one of the best directors working right now, and consistently when I watch his films I'm like, yeah, okay, he's a fantastic filmmaker, even if I think we should just stop making mob movies, frankly. We've done everything. It's all been done. Anyway, number 15, The Ratcatcher. Okay, yes, this is a short, but it's simple. I really like the way that the conversation shifts, and the way you feel about each of the characters has completely flipped by the time it ends, or maybe it's stayed exactly the same and just gotten stronger. Really, really strong short. 14, Past Lives. Now, I, being an aromantic person, don't do romance movies very well. I try my best, I really do, but this kind of is different because it's almost like an anti-romance movie, right? I remember criticizing this when I saw the adverts for it first, because the adverts really make it look like it's just a film about a woman cheating on her, having an emotional affair with a childhood friend, and it is that. But largely that's kind of the point, and the end of the film solidifies that is kind of the point, that it's not appropriate, and that these things are complicated to deal with, but they shouldn't be, and you should grow up. That last bit was me. That was me saying that. I simply wouldn't have gotten into this situation. Number 13 is Saltburn. It is largely just rich people bad, right? It is largely just greed begets greed, which is, it's been done. I already know this. But production design, cinematography, costuming, performances, this minute-to-minute script, so strong. The comedy is so strong and so, it's not like, whoa, laugh out loud, chortle comedy. It's like little sort of evil comedy, makes you do a little smirk. Ha ha ha, those rich people, fucking idiots. I really, really enjoyed this more than I thought I would. Which I also felt about number 12, which was Oppenheimer. I am still a bit torn about Oppenheimer because it's fantastic. It is a fantastic movie. Nolan does it again. It's Nolan, come on. But man, I don't like the pacing of this movie. I just don't. It's too quick, and this is going to happen when you're covering so much time, right? And when you're making a film in 2023, everything's going to be fucking quick all the time. But this, not a single scene in this movie lasts longer than a minute. It's so choppy, and it suffers. A lot of the emotional beats suffer. Maybe all of the emotional beats, besides the sort of climactic ones, really suffer because of the pacing, in my opinion. It's, as I said, not a single scene lasts longer than a minute. There are scenes in this movie that are just people going into a room and going, we've got to do this, you're right, cuts to the thing happening. And I guess it works functionally, but my brain doesn't move that fast. I'm slow, okay? I'm a slow person, like a snail. Speaking of animals, number 11 is The Boy and the Heron. How Do You Live, which is absolutely what it should have been called, right? That was the original title. I don't know why they changed it to The Boy and the Heron, when How Do You Live is so much better a title. Although, knowing that that was the original title, when the book How Do You Live showed up in the story, I expected it to be more a part of the narrative. I expected it to kind of come back, and it just doesn't. It's weird. It's like a Chekhov's gun, except they never mention the gun again. But I will admit, with The Boy and the Heron, as much as I do like a lot of the stuff later on into the movie, I think the movie's at its strongest at the start, when the Heron's this mysterious, freaky, scary figure that is just kind of following him around and chasing him, and no one believes it's real. Number 10 is After Sun. Oof, I've seen a lot of films that tackle a lot of the same things as this before, but After Sun really hits hard. It is very emotional, very personal, but honestly, it deserves a number 10 spot just for the cinematography. Astounding, and the editing, and oh boy, loved this film. Number 9 is Barbie, because of course it was the movie of the year. I do think, you know, not to get into Oscars discourse, because the Academy Awards are a sham, and if you genuinely think they mean anything, you are a fool and should be neutered. But obviously, Ryan Gosling shouldn't have been the only person to get an award. In fact, as much as I think Ken was the funnest part of this movie, I don't think anyone from this movie should have gotten an award. The production designer, I think, should have gotten a nomination. Maybe costumes and makeup. But I don't understand this obsession with fun comedy movies needing to justify themselves. You know what I mean? Fun comedy movies can't just be fun comedy movies anymore. They all have to be Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it's a comedy, but it's actually more. They've all got to be, you know, super deep, and the comedy is just a vessel to help you understand. And it's like, no, what's wrong with just having fun, you know? It's the same thing as John Wick. I have so many conversations with people like John Wick where they're like, yeah, but it's just an action movie. And it's like, what does that mean? It tells me that you don't really care about film or cinema if you think that films can't just be fun comedies or action. Anyway, number 8, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar was so to be a fly on the wall when they were recording these scenes. This is pure production gloriousness. What a fun film to watch. Not even for the story, just for how everything happens and unfolds. Literally, it's like a pop-up book put to the screen. Number 7, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Okay, another show. Get off my back. It's my show. No, Scott Pilgrim's not my show. This is my show. You're listening to it right now. Yeah, maybe the best thing in the Scott Pilgrim franchise. Really like this a whole lot. There's not much else to say. Wonderfully animated. Great. Number 6, Asteroid City. That's right. 3 different Wes Anderson things in one top 30. What is going on? In one top 15, even. Asteroid City may be one of my favorite Wes Anderson projects. I really like this. It's a lot more low-key than some of his other films. I think Grand Budapest is still my favorite from his, even though a lot of film snobs will put their nose up at me for saying that, because that's the popular one. It's popular for a reason. A loser. Asteroid City it's fun. It's kind of freaky at times, and it's always surprising you. But it never ever stops being low key, and I love that. And I love the location, and I love the look. Wonderful. Number 5, another Wes Anderson, The Swan. This was my favorite of the Netflix shorts, as you can tell from being in the number 5 spot on my list. Because it mixes the amazing production design with this fantastic short story from Roald Dahl, which just hits so hard emotionally. And the actor, who I forget the name of, who is in it, does an amazing job with it. Number 4, Infinity Pool. I feel like people forgot this film happened. Infinity Pool, I loved Possessor. Possessor was fantastic, so I had my eye close on Brandon Cronenberg, and then Infinity Pool came out, and it was amazing. It was better than Daddy Cronenberg, David Cronenberg, his film Crimes of the Future. I did not like that film at all. I thought it was a failure. I thought it failed to deliver its message. I thought it failed to be a body horror. I thought it failed as a narrative. I thought the characters failed. I thought it basically failed on every level. It had some cool visuals, most of which were ruined eventually within the same scene. But Infinity Pool is the opposite. It is great. It is gripping. I don't think it has much rewatch value, though, sadly. Number 3, Fires of Love, a documentary that, it's the only documentary on this list, sadly, but it is fantastic. The way it's presented visually is unique and gripping, and really helps to sort of mask the low quality of the footage. But the story is so unique and genuinely fascinating. I was on the edge of my seat all the way through. Number 2, Junkhead, a animated film that has been in production and been releasing in parts since 2017, I think. I remember seeing the first part back in 2017, I think. Actually, it might have been later. I think I saw it in like 2020, but I think it came out in 2017. This is a great movie. I am way over time, so I need to sort of talk about these very quick. Great movie. Please see Junkhead if you like stop motion animation. And horror. Speaking of horror, the number 1 spot goes to Skin on the Ring, which I technically saw in December of last year, but still makes its way here. I love this movie. Here's a fun fact about me in this movie. I shrunk this down and put it onto my PSP, and there is something weirdly perfect about watching this on a little tiny PSP screen in the dark. It just works for some reason. I can't explain it. Anyway, those are my top 30 movies, and this is a 20-minute long segment. I am so sorry to me in the future who is having to edit this down. Bye-bye. If you are hearing this in the year 2026, as if podcasts are still gonna exist in 2026, then please let me know how many of these movies you even heard of. I'd love to know how many actually had staying power in the end. Anyway, if you're someone who's sick of the dull tones of the Grith Show and my voice, then you're in luck, because our next segment is from a guest speaker, Casper Leaf, Keroblin, who's going to be talking about Boku no Natsuyasumi 2, but you're not there yet. We're going to listen to Solitary Moments by Lupus Nocte first.
I'm feeling very disillusioned with the city ever since I moved here. I grew up deep in the countryside and took it for granted. Each day I'd swim in the river, pick and eat fruit, run in the fields, cycle on quiet roads, meet my friends in the pub for poker and board games, and just explore. I watched Action Button's Boku no Natsuyasumi review a while ago, and I've since watched it maybe twice more. It's 6 hours. It's a pretty big commitment to do that. I was touched not only by the beauty of Tim's experience and personal stories, but the masterful watercolour backgrounds and the ignorance of industry trends to create joyful polish and unique features. But of course I couldn't play it because I'm not fluent in Japanese. I know like a few phrases and I could definitely not get by on a holiday speaking it even if I tried. I just searched for ROM just to maybe try and play it in Japanese, just to have a go and to garner maybe anything. And to my surprise, an English patch had just come out for the second one. It's made entirely by fans and the quality is insane. It feels better than an even authentic port might. All of the pre-rendered elements, textures, and of course the live text are massively changed to English. Boku no Natsuyasumi 2 is a sequel to the one in the review, so I felt really comfortable I had enough context to play. It's about Boku, a small boy visiting his aunt and uncle who live by the sea, running a bathhouse/restaurant in a relatively remote village for the summer, while his mother has a baby. You play using true tank controls, rotating Boku with the D-pad and moving forward with the circle button, and can press down on the D-pad to snap the face behind you. You can catch bugs, battle them, trade them, preserve them, learn facts about them, talk to the locals, fish, play at the park, collect bottle caps, tame a dog, get your photo taken by the American National Geographic photographer, have baths in the hot spring, swim in the sea, repair friendships, get closer to grievers, explore and find new routes around, help neglected children, the list goes on! Boku no Natsuyasumi 2, meaning the masculine pronoun for a young boy, that's what Boku means. Boku's summer holiday is like living in a small countryside village for real, like actually. Every day you grow closer to those around you if you choose, and you learn so much about them, deepening your connections to the place you find yourself in. The game is structured by days, which lasts about half an hour-ish each. I don't know, I'm always too immersed as hell, and I think some things can lengthen it if you're like fishing for ages or swimming for ages. I think it maybe makes time last longer, but I might be insane. At the end of each day, Boku will draw a picture in his diary and write about what happened that day. You only have until the summer holiday ends, which means that every day counts, and there are different endings based on what you do. You have the power to help and enrich the lives of so many people, and you really have to learn about them in order to do this and get invested in the stories, which sounds hard, but is not, like, at all. Every story is so emotionally fueled and so human, and it's impossible not to find yourself wanting to do everything in your power to just talk and keep up with these people every day. No one is surface level, everyone has so much to learn from and to help with. The sound design, by the way, is immaculate. Tim Rogers talked to no end about this, so please go watch that video, but there's like seasonal and like daytime bugs, unique bugs based on like the day it is, the season, well not the season I guess, you're in summer, but the daytime it is and when in the month it is, and it's really cool. You end up kind of like without the visuals just tracking what time of the day you're in just by sound, and it's great. The characters are all illustrated in this wonderful minimalist style that gets across so much emotion and personality with very few very cute lines. It reminds me of like Sanrio kind of style where it's literally just like they have dot eyes, they have a little nose, or like the Katamari art style. It's very minimal, but it gets across so much about all the characters, and I struggle to even understand how they did some of those lines and stuff without like doing it myself in Blender on a PS2, because it's such a unique and such a pretty art style, and it feels like a painting in all of it. An honourable mention again to Simon, the photographer, who, considering this game was never localised, acts as a wonderful introduction and cultural anchor to a Westerner like me. He's funny and silly and speaks in an accent which in the subtitles shows as a different serifed font, and uses his name as an identifying pronoun, so he goes, Simon, where, take a picture. Rather than Boku, who uses Boku, which is the pronoun for a young boy, and also his name. Anyway, he has some quirky Japanese and tells tales of his adventures around the world, and he compares his village to his home, his family, his Western culture. It feels intentional. I mean, it makes sense in the world. This is a tourist destination, but it feels like it's meant to be there for, I don't know, for someone like me, it's just too perfect, and it makes me feel really, like, good playing it. It's a good character to be there, and I really like him. Also, they have this really stupid perspective where if you go into his bedroom, he's got these massive feet because of the camera angle where he's sat down, and obviously the character design is like quite cutesy, so they just do have massive like Mega Man feet, so you just have a face for the feet. Anyway, I just need to say that because it's really funny to me, and no one's gonna play this. I know no one's gonna play this, but I need to get across how stupid this imagery is. The UI is like one of my favorite things about this game. It's so cool. Genuinely, if this, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they could pull a lawsuit against Nintendo, because it's, Animal Crossing definitely was at least inspired, at the very least, but it feels like plagiarism. It genuinely does, because all of the UI sound design is like identical to Animal Crossing. But it's beautiful. When we pause the game, a photo is taken of Boku, and we zoom out from the game space into Boku's desk with that photo in a frame on it. We see his shirt, which we can take off, providing absolutely no change to gameplay, apart from now he's got his shirt off, which, you know, I guess young boys do in the summer in Japan, or anywhere, really. Man, the privilege. We can see his bug tools, his fishing set, his bag, and more. Every single piece of inventory and most of the bug mechanics are accessible in here through tangible diegetic tools, like the bug cage and a syringe for preserving them, the notebook for all their details, and I could go on. It's so intuitive and it's so beautiful, all placed candidly on a desk like a little museum of who Boku is. Boku no Natsuyasumi 2 is based in August 1975. We are safe in this time period. If you ever feel hard-pressed by capitalism, concrete, loud noises, the city, the alienation and separation from the community that work culture asks of us, the grey of England, the lack of wild food, the reliance on mass production, the lack of colour and life in everything, play this game. It's the ultimate cozy game. There's no goal, you just go around, you just have a summer holiday. These are my favourite kind of games. You decide who you are, you decide what you are invested in, and you get rewarded on that. And it's great. It's like pre-Minecraft, pre-Animal Crossing, pre-anything like that, pre-Stardew. There's no farming though, you just kind of fish sometimes and get a bug. That's it. I mean, you can water some flowers actually. Yeah, anyway, this game's great. It's like maybe my favourite game of all time now. I want everyone to play it. You won't feel any alienation from it because it's a Japanese game. The subtitles are perfect. Everything fits. It's so good. Please play this game. I know you won't. I know you're going, oh, it's a ROM. You just download the ROM. It's pre-patched. It's great. You just download the ROM and put it into, what's it called, Josh? PCSX2 or whatever? The PS2 emulator. PCSX2, you just download the ROM and just drag it into your ROMs folder, and it's pre-patched. You don't have to do anything, you just launch it. You get the ISOs obviously, and that's the whole thing, but it's not that bad if you know what you're doing with emulation. It's like the easiest thing to set up. Okay, anyway, please, this game is like the best. Bye!
That was Black Sunrise by ELFL, and that brings us just about to the end of our show. Of course, there is one thing left, the new episode of our original radio play, The Marshwood Springs Oddities Society. And this is another throwback with Marshwood Episode 2, re-MARSH-tered. First though, one more song. Summer 96 kbps by, again, Lupus Nocte. Thanks for watching. Thank you for watching this month's show, everyone. Let me know what you want to see in future, or if I could improve the show in any way. This has been a great time. I've been Possum, and this has been Grith Show. Enjoy the scares.
And that was the weather. Another cloudy day here in Marshwood Springs. Moving right along now, we have another story from the Marshwood Springs Odyssey Society, presented, as always, by Theodore Whaley.
Welcome back. My name is Theodore, president of the MSOS. People come to the Society's headquarters every week looking to get catharsis for some of the things that happen to people in this town. Today's story comes from James, who has lived here for 3 years. He works in the office building on Tyndall Street. His tale begins.
My daughter went missing 2 weeks ago. No one in our building saw anything. The cameras showed nothing. One morning, she was just gone. The police came by yesterday with pictures of several children. None of them were my little girl. Apparently, at least half a dozen kids have gone missing in the past week. They asked me if I knew anything about any of them, which, of course, I didn't. They left shortly after, telling me to let them know if I have to go anywhere, for any reason. Later that night, I went to my daughter's room. It had been left in the same condition it was that morning. Even her little blue bunny still rested against her pillow. I picked it up and just held it. This is when I noticed something wrong. Her bed. It dipped in the middle. I mean, obviously the bed wasn't meant for a fully grown man to sit on, but the dip was strange. I got up and ripped off her bed sheets to see a hole in the middle of her bed. Too small for me to fit in fully. I could fit my head in, but all I saw was darkness. I immediately rang the police and was told they would send an officer over in the morning. I couldn't sleep that night. My head wouldn't stop racing and I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. My daughter was out there. I knew it. The next morning there was a knock at my door. The officer already looked too tired to deal with anything. I showed him the hole. He shone a torch down, but it didn't reflect off anything. The darkness consumed any light. He said he'd get a crew to come look at it later. He mentioned a drone or a GoPro and some string. The last thing he said to me before he left was that I should get some sleep. I went back to my room, pulled away the bed sheets. There was a dip in my bed, much larger than my daughter's. I put my hand on the blanket to feel the mattress, except there was no mattress. My hand pushed right through the blanket, which fell through the mattress silently, revealing my hole. I grabbed my phone, my torch, and tied myself to the bedpost using some old sweaters in the wardrobe. I climbed in. The sweaters slipped apart pretty quickly. That was a bad move on my part. But as soon as they did, I felt as though I was floating. I knew I was moving down because the light from the hole was moving away, but I couldn't feel it. It felt like I was being pushed and pulled in every direction at once. There was no wind, no gravity to tell me which way I was going. I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. I was sure this is how it was going to be forever. But then, my feet started to drag. I started to halt. There was a floor beneath my feet, despite the fact that should have been a wall. I ground to a stop, losing my balance and falling. I looked around, my only point of reference being the faraway light from the hole. As I pushed off the ground to get back up, the ground felt like cold concrete. I got up and turned, trying to find anything that might tell me where I am. Looking into the darkness, even the light from the hole wasn't enough to tell me where I was. I got out my torch and turned it on, and there, about 10 feet away, stood my daughter, staring at me. She put her arms out, and I can see from the light from my torch reflecting off the tears. I go to her, holding her tight, telling her it's okay. But she was so cold. I noticed it then, in the light from the torch. I could see what I thought to be a pillar, but before I could take it in, I heard something. A voice said to me, "You shouldn't be here." I could feel my little girl's mouth saying the words, but the voice wasn't hers. I opened my eyes and I see it was in the back of her head. There was something coming out of the back of her head. It was gray and thin, and eventually I realized I was looking at skin, withered, leathery skin. It went up and attached to a body, 10 feet up at least. It was its eyes. The light from my torch reflected off its eyes that were staring down at me with contempt. I scrambled back, and now I could see it. Squatting down behind my daughter was a humanoid figure, and even squatting, it was at least 10 feet tall. Its arms and legs were so long, and it looked at me with such anger. It raised its arms, my daughter, that puppet, coming with it, and pushed toward me, scraping her feet on the concrete floor. It tells me again through her mouth, "You're not meant to be here." As it pushed her body toward me, I screamed. I got up and run, straight for the hole. A moment later, I hear a creaking sound, like the sound the branch of a tree makes before it breaks, and then a stomping. It was coming for me. Eventually, the stomping stops, and In a brief moment of bravery, I turned my head to see. There was nothing but darkness. I shine my torch behind me and I see it. The creature stood, facing towards me. It must have been taller than a house. Its puppet is limp by its side, but as it sees I'm looking at it again, its towering form hunches over, holding out its puppet. The thing belts towards me. I could see it was moving much faster than I could ever. But I had no hope but to try to run faster, but the stomping just gets louder and louder. It was just about to reach me, and I was just about to reach the hole. I felt it. The creature swept me up, picking me up off the ground, squeezing me tightly. One of my arms was trapped in its grip with my body, and as its grip tightened, I felt something in my arm grind together, followed by shooting pain. I screamed, but the thing kept lifting me. I couldn't see it in the darkness, but I knew it was lifting me right to its face. I could feel its eyes burning into me. And then it let go, and I fell. I fell down until I passed what should have been the ground and found that I was back in my bedroom. I fell up until my feet hit the ceiling, then straight back down onto the bed, the hole gone. I went to the police and they said I should get some rest, that I was sleep deprived, but I know it was real because that thing broke my fucking arm. You're the only one left I can go to. Please say you believe me, Theodore.
Thank you, James. And I urge anyone to go to the police if they have any information regarding the recent disappearances. Join me next time for another story from town members just like you.
Thank you, Theodore. And remember, everyone, the doors of the Odyssey Society are always open if you ever need to.
Door down.
What the hell? You
Herman,
can't.
we need to talk.
Here's a new song from Marshwood Springs, Frogs Are People Too. Alright, what do you want?
Frogs are people too. They have lives, just like me and you. Aw yeah, frogs go bounce, bounce. They are bouncing all around, round this town.